Good afternoon, ladies. This is Dale Shelton, and I'm the Ministry Support Manager here at Stonecroft. We're excited to bring you another in our series of personality training sessions. We welcome back Shirley Voorhees, who is a certified senior master trainer in the DISC model of human behavior. Shirley came to Stonecroft 2 years ago and serves as the administrative coordinator for Cheryl Davis and Women's Connection. Thank you for being here and sharing your knowledge of personalities with us, Shirley. We look forward to what we will learn today.
Thank you, Dale. And good afternoon, ladies. I always get excited about sharing this information with you. As a young woman and mother of 5 little ones, I would sometimes look at some of them and think, where did you come from? You aren't like us. You don't act like us. You don't think like us. Surely there was a mix-up at the hospital and the nurse gave us the wrong child. Well, because I wanted to be the best mom I could be, I started to study about personality differences, and what began as a desire to understand my own children and parent them well became one of my great passions. I really believe that one thing that will affect the kind of legacy we leave behind is our ability to build and maintain good relationships with other women. Let me ask you a question. When did it start for you? It started for me in grade school, around the 5th grade, I think. My friends and I would get into these disagreements that often turned into fights. There was screaming and crying, pulling hair, biting, kicking, scratching, and hitting. More than once, we were hauled into the office for fighting on the playground. I don't remember starting any of those fights, but I certainly wasn't afraid to stand up for myself either, or to get into the mix of things. I would venture to say that some of you had similar experiences. We have long since outgrown the playground. But unfortunately, ladies, while there may no longer be kicking, biting, and pulling hair, many of us have not outgrown fighting with our friends. We've often made a mess of friendship and relationships with other women. Some of us have been hurt by relationships in the past to the point that we just don't even want to mess with it anymore. Oh, we smile and put on an acceptable face of friendship, but we often hold other women at arm's length and don't let anyone get really close to us for fear of being hurt again. But we need each other desperately. So we need to learn how to get along. You know, Jesus was once asked what the most important commandment was, because in the Jewish law there were many, and he boiled it down to just 2 things. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And God is so serious about us learning how to get along that he said, you can't say you love me if you don't love your brother. So if we want to be right with God, we need to be right with each other. I think one of the main reasons we have such a hard time with friendship is that we don't understand each other. We tend to judge, label, criticize, and dismiss those things that we don't understand. So today, I want to help bring some understanding into this issue. A friend of mine once said, no matter how thin you make the pancake, it still has 2 sides. The same is true in conflict. In every conflict you've ever been involved in, there were 2 sides, your side and their side. Here's another truth. Most conflict is a matter of preference and not a matter of conviction. Let me explain the difference. I think we may have touched on this just briefly in one of our other sessions, but I really want to get deeper into this today. A preference is a preferred way of thinking, responding, or doing something. A conviction is a belief you hold so strongly that you'd be willing to die for it. And in my experience, those are relatively few for all of us. Preferences, on the other hand, are as many and varied as the people who hold them. When we're born, we all come hardwired to be a certain way. And then things like education, background, family, culture, all those things shape and form our personality to make us who we are. Some people prefer to do things fast. Their internal motor is constantly revved up. They don't do slow. Others prefer to move more slowly, take their time, relax. And it really doesn't matter which one of those you happen to be. You have a tendency to think that your way is best. Your way is right. Some of us are do it now kind of people, and others are why do today what you can put off till tomorrow kind of people. If you move through life at warp speed, you are likely impatient with those who don't, and you can't understand why it takes people so long to get something done. However, if your motor runs more slowly, you probably get irritated with people who try to push you to do something before you're ready. And ironically, whichever one you are, if you're married, your mate is probably the opposite. This can be the cause of many an argument. The outlook on life for some is optimistic and cheery. They have a can-do attitude and they see the proverbial glass as half full. There are others, however, who have the glass is half empty viewpoint. They tend to see first what can go wrong or what won't work. Put two people with those differing views together and fireworks can erupt. The brighter one wants the other to cheer up, lighten up, don't be so negative. The other ones think that they're being more realistic and down to earth in their approach to life, and they don't take too kindly to being told to cheer up. Is this familiar to any of you? Work is all important to many people. They're all about getting things done, checking them off their list, making goals, taking account of their accomplishments, and getting ahead. Others have relationships with people as their focus, and it isn't that they don't value work or getting things done. They just go about it in a different way. And the relationships of the people involved are what is most important to them. Those whose focus is on the tasks often comes across to others as hard and uncaring, while those whose focus is on preserving and cultivating relationships can sometimes be judged as unproductive or less than responsible. These attitudes and judgments have frequently been the source of arguments and misunderstandings between family members, co-workers, and dare I say, planning team members. Let me give you a great example of what I'm talking about. Time. There are 4 basic personality styles, and each of these styles views time differently. Those who are outgoing, fast-paced, and task-oriented in the DISC model of human behavior, as we have already discovered, are dominant, demanding, determined, driven doers. This type of lady wakes up in the morning with a to-do list that is a mile long. Her time is crammed with tasks to be done, and there is little time for interruptions, or things that would prevent her from being able to check those tasks off her list. She's that lady who has things to do, places to go, and people to see. Chances are you know somebody like that. Or maybe it's you. If you have an appointment with this woman, you had better not be late, because one of the worst things you can do to her is waste her time. On the other hand, she may be late because she had one more thing she needed to do before meeting with you, one more call to make, one more email to send, one more stop on the way, whatever. You may sometimes feel like an imposition to this woman. If you are friends with her, just respect her focus on getting things done and realize that you may need to ask to be fitted into her schedule. Listen, that doesn't mean that you aren't important to her. It just means that she's focused on accomplishing things and sometimes has to be reminded that you need and want her attention. Then there are those who are outgoing and people-oriented. They are the inspiring, interactive, inducing, and interested in people kind of person. They're fun-loving. So when they wake up in the morning, they aren't necessarily thinking about tasks as much as they're thinking about the people that they're going to see or talk to that day. While the dominant type woman that we just talked about isn't too keen on interruptions, this inspiring type welcomes them because they add variety to their day. They tend to just go with the flow. They don't like a super structured schedule because that feels restrictive to them. When it comes to time, this lady is rather loose. If you have an appointment with her, chances are really good that she will be late. It isn't that your meeting with her isn't important. It's just that she can get caught up in the moment and lose track of time. Or someone or something else came along and she totally forgot she was even supposed to meet with you. Because she lives in the now, to her, it's not a big deal if she's late. And likewise, it's not really a big deal if you're late either. For her, it'll all work out. Not to worry. If you're friends with this inspiring type lady and have a different view of time, you may find yourself constantly annoyed by her lack of concern and judge her as inconsiderate. There are those who are reserved, people-oriented. We call them supportive, stable, steady, and they can sometimes be a little bit shy. The most important thing to this woman is being helpful. She lives to serve. However, she likes to do it behind the scenes. She doesn't seek attention, but is all about paying attention to the people around her and what they may need from her. She is most definitely others focused. This woman has a twofold view of time because she has high expectations of herself in everything, but she's willing to make exceptions for others. So she expects herself to be on time so that she isn't putting anyone else out or taking advantage of them. But if the other person's late, then she will often make excuses for them like, I know they're really busy, or they must have had something more important come up. See, the other person and their agenda is always more important to this type of lady than what she has to do. She's very forgiving and gracious about it. As her friend, however, just realize that if you take advantage of her graciousness too many times, she is likely to become resentful and withdraw from you. Some people are reserved, task-oriented, cautious, calculating, careful, and competent. Not only do they have a schedule for the day, they have a plan for the whole year. They tend to be very structured in every area of their lives. They methodically plan their activities so as to conserve time, gas, and energy. They efficiently move through their day according to their plan, and they typically aren't open to doing anything that isn't in their plan. They don't easily accept a change in direction. When it comes to time, they often think that if you aren't 5 or more minutes early, then you're late. They have a very high expectation of themselves, and they have high expectations of you too. They don't take kindly to you being late. If you have agreed to meet at a certain time, you'd best be there when that time arrives, or she will be unhappy when you finally do show up. There just isn't a lot of margin for error with this type of personality. Now, all of the examples that I have just given you are preferences. They are a person's own peculiar way of thinking, seeing the world, or getting something accomplished. And I want to tell you something that you're not going to like, but it's true. Neither is right or wrong. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. Neither is right or wrong. They aren't convictions. They aren't issues over which we would die. Yet aren't those the things from which most of our arguments and disagreements come? Aren't those the things that get us all in a twist? The next time that you're frustrated by someone, ask yourself, is this a matter of preference or conviction? Another great question to ask is, what's more important, that I be right or to preserve the relationship? I believe you will find that more often than not, the argument or disagreement is over a difference in the way you and the other person sees the world. More often than not, it's about preference. So are you really willing for the relationship to be damaged or to die in order to be right? Or in order to have things your way? Remember, we're created for relationship, first with God and then with others. And God is very serious about it. He wants us to value and respect the differences and learn how to celebrate what other people bring into our lives rather than judge each other and fight against each other. Now listen, ladies, I am not at all suggesting that this is easy. It is not. Even with a great deal of understanding and teaching this personality stuff, I sometimes still find it hard to practice what I preach. But I'm telling you, it is vital for our time here on earth. It's vital for our own health, happiness, and well-being, if for nothing else. But I truly believe that we must work diligently to build healthy relationships in order to ensure another 80 years for Stonecroft. If we can't get along with our planning teams and group members, why would anyone want to be a part of that? Why would we want to invite anyone to join us? Scripture says that the early church was known for the love they had for each other. That's the kind of environment people want to be part of because they feel valued and they feel respected. That's the kind of thing that we can proudly invite others to join. I believe God wants us to learn how to do more than just tolerate others, because The truth is, if all we're doing is tolerating, we'll tolerate someone until we can figure out how to eliminate them. Let's learn how to appreciate and celebrate each other so that we can leave behind a legacy of love, so that we can continue the dream that God placed in the heart of Mrs. Baugh 80 years ago. So, how can we take what we've discussed today and apply it to the relationships and people God has placed in our lives? I think that reminding ourselves in the midst of our interactions with others that we're all different and have differing preferences is a really good start. That helps to make room for someone else's point of view. And when there is a difference, instead of planting your feet and expecting the other person to come over to your side, so to speak, try to understand where they're coming from. Ask questions. A really good one to ask is, can you help me understand why that's important to you? Or, can you help me understand your thinking on that? That gives room for healthy discussion rather than building a wall. And instead of judging others' actions, develop an attitude of curiosity. So when someone does something that frustrates you or confuses you, train yourself to say, I wonder why they did that. We all have a tendency to think that everything is all about us. So when someone does something, we assume that they're doing it to us, when in reality, people don't do things to us as much as they do them for themselves. I'm going to say that again. People don't do things to us as much as they do them for themselves. I hope that this has been helpful to you today, and I would recommend going back to the other disc sessions that we've had from time to time and re-listen to them. The more you use this information and understand the people that you live with and are working with, the better your relations are going to become. You'll be better able to offer the same grace to others that God gives to you. So to close this session, I want to speak a blessing over you from the Amplified Bible in Ephesians 3:16, which says, "May He grant you out of the riches of His glory to be strengthened and spiritually energized with power through His Holy Spirit in your inner self, indwelling your innermost being and personality."